Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome to Canard Boulevard. If you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you know I've had some challenges with the electronic ignition on this airplane. We're going to fix that. The electronic ignition on this airplane is a 20-year-old Electro Air system. It is the very first electronic ignition system that Electro Air ever produced. It works, but the manifold air pressure sensor on it failed. And when it failed in such a way that it was permanently advancing the timing on the airplane, which caused all the cylinder head temperatures to go up. So I was fighting these cooling problems. I was tacking it how you normally would, trying to figure out why, is the baffling wrong? Why am I not getting cooling air? And it turns out it was none of that. It was actually the incorrect timing advance that was being applied by the electronic ignition. I disabled the manifold air pressure sensor, which worked, but that forces it to run at 25 degrees before top dead center, essentially turns it into a magneto. So that means I lose all the benefit of the electronic ignition, where it adjusts the timing based on power settings and altitude and manifold pressure, and those benefits are more power and less fuel consumption. Great, except now I don't have it. So I talked with Electro Air, and I found out that with the timing sensor that goes on the magneto pad where the magneto normally would mount, it will work with their EIS 20000 unit. So I have bought that EIS 20000 upgrade unit. I'm going to keep the sensor that I have in there now, and I'm going to rip out everything else and replace it. Unfortunately, the old one, which sits right back here, is an all-in-one. You can see right here, these are the coil packs, and then the manifold air pressure sensor is here, and then the electronics is built into the back of it here. So it's all one unit. The new one, the coil packs, live out here, but the manifold air pressure and the sensor and the brain actually go inside the cockpit, or not out where the engine is. So we're going to have to do some work to get this to fit. So I've already pulled off the plug wires off of here, and I'm really hoping that they're going to reach where I'm going to put the new coil pack where this old coil pack is. I've started pulling wires off already. This is just for the manifold air pressure sensor. And then these wires here are for the MTH, which is the magneto sensor, which is right there. And that reads the cam position of the engine. And then we have power coming from the cockpit. And we're going to have to modify that slightly as well. I have drilled a hole in here, and the wiring harness for the EIS, the new EIS, is down here. That's already started. And you can see that comes in here, and there is the connector for the internal brain, which is right here. And that will be mounted up here. Actually, I'm going to mount it, I think, like that, right there. And then the manifold air pressure sensor is built into this one. It goes in right there, so I'll bring the hose in through there as well and mount that in. So let's get to work and start installing this EIS. One of the things I'm not so impressed with on the Electro Air module, you can see I've started already wiring. I've got some of the manifold pressure tubing in here. I drilled a 1-inch hole through there because the round connector that fits into the coil pack is 1 inch in round, so I can fit that through there. But you also have to get this through to the MTH. That's not going to fit, which means I'm going to have to disassemble this connector in order to wire this up, because it comes with this pre-made harness. The only other option is to cut a hole that thing will fit through. So that's kind of not cool, that you got to have a massive hole or disassemble connectors. So that's a little bit of time kill there that I could have done better, I think, Electro Air. Well, I'm done for tonight. I do have most of the wiring done. I don't have the tool that I need to remove the pins from that connector. I have it at home, so I can't do that tonight. I do have that mounted in there. I've got the manifold pressure plumbing in there, and that's coming out of there and going down here, and it's plumbed into the manifold pressure line right there. That's where it comes from on the engine, runs out to here. One of them tees off here to the sensor that runs to the EIS, so I have a manifold pressure on the G3X. And then the other one runs up there, which then hooks up to that hose, which then runs up there and into the EIS. So that's what we've got done for tonight. I have not yet removed the old unit off there. I do have a couple wires yet still to trace and disconnect. But it is getting really cold out here. I'm gonna get in a nice warm car, drive home, call it a night. We'll get back at it tomorrow. Well, I'm back at it after a night off. My body demanded that I take a night off. I just couldn't face coming out here and working for another 5-6 hours. Just everything hurt. So, back out here working on the electronic ignition again. We're getting fairly close. In fact, here's I think a fair chance that I might actually get this done tonight. That would be fantastic if it does. Let me show you how we're getting on. You can see I've got that module mounted up there and the harness is almost finished. I do have to clean up that wiring there. There are a couple wires there for the power and the ground that need to get hooked up. I have taken off the old electronic ignition, which you can see here. That's the map sensor there, the manifold pressure sensor that failed. You can see the coils here. And so that is, well, I guess it's trash. I don't need that anymore. You can see where that was mounted on the firewall there. And the new one is going to get mounted on just like that. So pretty much the same position. I just got to make sure that wherever I put it, the spark plug leads can actually fit, and that there's no interference with this fuel fitting from the electric fuel pump right there. So it may have to go a little lower, a little higher. We'll figure that out as we go. This is the wire that's going to go into that coil pack. And then we've got the MTH, which is the magneto pickup, and that is up here. That's connected up, and that is going to, well, we've got the wire run out here, but we'll have to clean that up and make it look neat and tidy. So the next step is to get this mounted, and of course I need to do some measurements and testing with the wires first. And what is that sound? Oh, it looks like a powered parachute, maybe? Yeah, I think that is a powered parachute. So when you were fastening something on the outside of the firewall using a bolt that you have to hold, and then you are tightening a nut on the inside of the firewall, how do you do both at the same time? Well, you use a lend-a-hand, which is a wrench that you tape in place so that it holds it, and that's propped up against something that won't move, and then you hope it stays in place, and then it doesn't, and you keep putting it back, and then 4 or 5 times you finally get it in, and it takes about 45 minutes to install something that should take you 5. But that's it. It's installed. We can take these foam protecting things off. Oh, I don't have enough room to do that. Well, that wasn't thinking ahead very well, was it? I'm gonna have to cut that off, but then I can take those off and hook up the wires. All right, we are definitely getting progress here. The plug wires are now hooked up. This is the old enable wire. Unfortunately, that doesn't hook up to this. This hooks up to the module inside, so that's got to get rerouted. This is our power wire that powers the coils. There's a new circuit that I got to run for that. This ground also needs to get hooked up. And inside, I'm going to tidy those up, and there's a power wire there that also needs to get hooked up. That's actually the one that will get hooked up to the wire that I got to pull in from outside, that red one right there. Here's something else we don't see here very often.
The next day.
In case anyone wonders if this Drybot actually does work, you can see it's regenerating the desiccant inside. That's what this hissing noise is, and that's water that is coming out of it. That is all the water that it has extracted out of the air so that it sends dry air up into the engine. And apparently it works very well. Well, I think it's done. I think I've finished installing everything. If we look here, you can see I've got everything back together. We got a new breaker here for the ignition. That is not labeled yet. Neither is the button for the alternator. But as you can see, if I turn on the master and then I turn on the electronic ignition, you can see that little light lighting up right there. That's good. That's supposed to happen. I had to pull a couple of wires up to the front there, and you can see I've now got all these wires terminated and the ignition is installed. All this is running up here. I've sealed that up with our TV. Everything's tidy up. Yeah, I think that's it. I can't believe it. This has been so much work. I think this is probably about 30 hours I've put into this. The original plan was to get all this stuff done and then start it up and test it. But I think I'm gonna leave that for tomorrow. I'm tired. It's almost 10 o'clock at night. Got to go to work in the morning, and yeah, I've still got a fair bit of mess to clean up. So I'll leave that for tomorrow. I'll come out tomorrow, clean everything up, and open up the hangar, give it a test run, make sure the alternator and the ignition are working correctly. And if that all checks out, then I'll bolt on the cowls, and assuming we have daylight and weather and so on, we may actually go up for a test flight. Wow, never thought I'd say that, but here we are. All right, let's clean up a bit and head for home. It's the next day, and it's 78 degrees out today. Yesterday morning there was frost on the ground because it was so cold. Today it's 81 degrees. It's Ohio for you. I decided that today we are going to do the engine run up, but we are not going to go do a test flight. And the reason for that is because I do want to do a final inspection. I've had a whole lot of stuff out of this airplane, and I just want some fresh eyes. I want to look at it and go over and do a really thorough inspection, just make sure everything's right. And there are a few other things that I want to get done. I want to change the fuel filter, well, clean the fuel filters. There's 3 of them. There's one in the fuel servo down here, and there's one in the gascolator, and then there's another one up on the firewall there. So I want to clean those fuel filters. I do want to adjust the landing lights. I want to point them up a little bit so I can see further down the runway when I'm landing at night. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have on my list. But I don't want to be rushed doing a test flight. I don't want to be rushing through what I'm doing here in terms of testing the engine, just because I want to get out and fly before the light goes. So I don't think I'm going to fly today, and then that means no flying this weekend, because this weekend is just going to be miserable weather, big system moving in. So I guess Monday is the day. Coming Monday and the rest of this week is going to be really nice sunny, warm weather. So I think Monday is test flight day, as long as everything goes all right today. So I am going to do another quick inspection just to make sure all the plug wires are on their correct places. Really paranoid about that. I had a dream last night that I got it wrong and blew up the engine. So going to check that again. And then we will do a run up and we'll test both the electronic ignition and the new alternator. So let's get to work. Also, if I haven't mentioned it before, a cheap old motorhome is the perfect airport vehicle because it has a bathroom and a kitchen, and you can make yourself dinners. My dinner's in there in the refrigerator, and I don't have to drive up to the FBO if I need to use the bathroom. It's just great. So anyway, I think I've mentioned that before, but it really is a fantastic vehicle for this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start up on the magneto, which I can do because the magneto has an impulse coupling on it. So we'll start on the magneto and get the engine running, and once it is running, then we'll bring in the ignition and make sure that everything is okay. If there's any problem at all, immediately ignition goes off, and we'll mixture idle cut off. And I'm going to bring up the engine instruments here. You can see we have the alternator amps there. Okay, master on. Boost pump. 1, 2, 3 and off. Idle cutoff. Throttle set, idle set. Clear prop. And let's do it again, only this time we're going to turn the fuel on because I didn't bother to check my checklist because I wasn't going flying. Clear prop. The ignition is working perfectly. You heard the engine running it actually runs much better on the ignition than it does just on the mag. The RPM drop from the ignition to the mag was 60 RPM, and the RPM drop from the mag to ignition was 0. So that's good.
3 days later.
Well, we had a weekend of thunderstorms and tornadoes and all kinds of nasty weather. It's now Monday. The cold front has come through and pushed through all that nonsense. And it is a bright and sunny day outside. So we are going to go up and do our test flight. It is cold today, 42 degrees, so about 10 degrees Celsius. So we should get some decent performance. I am being very, very attentive and careful on this flight because this is, statistically speaking, the most dangerous flight you can do. This is the post-maintenance test flight. I have modified both the ignitions, replaced both ignition systems. The magneto was overhauled and replaced. The electronic ignition completely replaced with a new system. So I've replaced both of the ignition systems. So that's that redundancy there. And then obviously I have the new alternator in place along with some other wiring. So I've done the work to the absolute best of my abilities because I know my life depends on it. So I'm going to be taking things very carefully, really watching the performance, temperatures, voltages, everything. And I'm going to do an absolutely top pre-flight. And I'm also at the point here where I have not flown for several months because of the winter and because the airplane's been apart. So there's that on top of it. So got to be on my absolute A game here and get up, do the testing, come down, and see how we go. So let me start with the pre-flight. The wind was favoring 27, but now it's light and variable, so we're just going to stay on 27. It's a nice long downhill runway. It's the safest one. Traffic, experimental Cozy 797 Delta Lima crossing 19er. Diamond. Alright, oil temp is now at 100. I did have the preheat on, so it came up reasonably fast. Alright, so here's the first run up on this ignition system. So this is our first go, no go item. Okay, there's 1800 on the ignition only. We dropped 10 RPM. On the magneto only, we dropped 30 RPM. Alright, that's acceptable. Everything else looks okay. Green, 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 green. Alright, let's go and see if the thing will fly. Lights on, extrude boost on, throttle, okay. Alright, so
Medina traffic, 797 Delta Lima departing 27 Medina.
if we have not reached 60 knots by the turnoff, we will be aborting, full on brakes, idle cutoff, stop by the end of the runway. If we have an engine failure below 400 feet, straight ahead, land straight ahead. Above 400 HEL, which is a 1600 MSL, we will do a right turn, right 270, land on 19 south. Alright, here we go, trim is set, full power, 2230, we got 2240, we got more power than we used to. That's nice to see. Everything's still in the green. Airspeed's alive, we got, there's 60, 65, and 70, and rotate. Positive rate, gear up.
County traffic's at 209.
T's and P's good.
10 miles north to west, inbound 45, runway 27, home.
Everything looking great. There's 400. Bring around, stay in the pattern. There's pattern altitude.
Medina traffic, experimental cozy 797 Delta Lima left downwind 27.
Everything's still looking great. Alright, we are going to do a full stop landing, taxi back, and just make sure everything's cool. Okay, slow down because we're in the pattern. Mixture full forward. Midfield, gear coming down.
Medina traffic, cozy 797 Delta Lima final 27 full stop. Medina.
Mass undercarriage, mixture, switches. A little bit of a crosswind from the north. Ways made, power out. All right. Everything looked perfect. Alright, exact same thing this time, only we are going to depart the pattern. We're going to head south, exit the class Bravo, and then head over to Lorain. We'll land over there, and then come back. All the numbers for the engine look amazing. And man, we had some power coming out of there. The other thing I'm going to do is turn on some heat in here. It is a little chilly. I want to mess with that while I was flying the pattern, but that on and happening. We'll get that on and happening now. Alright, I'm going to do another run up just for good measure. Absolutely no mag drop on the ignition. That's amazing.
China traffic, Cozy 797, Delta Lima, departing 27.
Off landing light. Throttle, okay. And here we go. RPM coming up. Heat brake was up, or still down. I forgot to retract it. Normally I taxi in with it down to protect the prop. Forgot to retract it. That would have been bad. We would have been overheating then. Okay, let's do this again. Full power. 2220. Everything's in the green. 20. Airspeed's alive. There's 40. And 50. There's 60. 70, and pressure back and rotate. And gear up. Everything's still in the green. Looking good. So I'm climbing at 1,500 feet per minute at 118 knots. Wow. I'm trying to not climb so fast because I'm going to bust the Bravo. But I'm sure I could easily hold 2,000 feet per minute in this cold weather. It's showing 40 degrees. So yeah, wow. Wow, 170 true. Holy crap. That's the fastest I've ever had this airplane straight and level flight. Wow. So I don't know if it is the boat tail, or if it is the new ignition, or if it's both, but wow. I definitely gained some speed. As you can see, I'm 4,500 feet here. I'm truing 136, and that's what I'm seeing over the ground. And I've got it pulled back to 55% at only 6.5 gallons per hour. And my temperatures look really nice.
Lorain traffic, Cozy 797 Delta Lima over the field 2300. We're going to do a teardrop and join left downwind runway 7, Lorain.
Salem traffic, Cherokee 7125, let's use the field crosswind, 28 right Salem.
Lorain County traffic, Cozy 797 Delta Lima downwind 07. Full stop, Lorain.
Traffic Warrior 822 Tango to northwest of the field and enter a left downwind for 7. Lorain.
Lorain County traffic, Cozy 797 Delta Lima final runway 7. Full stop, Lorain.
500.
Okay, Traffic Warrior 823 Tango 1 mile north of the field, entering left downwind for 7 out of 45, Lorain.
Speed's good. Attitude's good.
Ashland traffic, Starling 1577. Zulu Zulu is about 5 miles to the west, inbound
Here
for
is
landing
green.
19 Ashland.
County Warrior 833 Tango, midfield downwind 7, right.
I never make that turn.
Traffic Warrior 822 Tango, clear vector runway 7 on Alpha, headed to the ramp, Lorain.
Lorain County, Cozy 797 Delta Lima, departing 07.
Lorain. Everything's in the green. There's 50, 50, and there's 65 and 70. Up we go. Gear up. Landing brake down. Nothing like landing into the direct sun in your eyes. Fun.
Medina traffic, Cozy 797 Delta Lima, final 27, full stop, Medina.
$500.
I can kind of make out the runway. Gas undercarriage switches, seatbelts, everything's good. Power out, runway is definitely made, we're high and fast. I gotta get my speeds down on final. I was way too fast there. I was over the numbers at 85 and I should be at more like 70.
Medina traffic, Cozy 797 Delta Lima, back taxi 27.
The shadow of this thing when you taxi the sun behind you looks really cool. I'm eager to download all the engine logs from this flight and put it into Savvy Aviation and get a good look at just how the engine's performing with this new ignition on it.
Well, I would call that a resounding success. I'm happy with everything I saw. The engine started great. All the checks, all the mag drops, everything looked really good. I saw almost 150 static RPM more, so I'm thinking that's probably the electronic ignition, or maybe the mag, because it has a hotter spark. Who knows? But either case, I'll take it. I'll take the higher static RPM, especially in this nice cold, dense air. The climb rates I saw were outstanding. I saw 2,000 feet per minute at one point, sustained. I actually had to tame down the climb because I was going to bust through the shelf of the Cleveland Class Bravo. It'll be interesting to test that again at another airport where I could do an unrestricted climb and just see what kind of performance we can get. What really shocked me was where I saw 170 knots true in straight and level flight, and I think that was at 4,500 feet, and it was still accelerating. And the reason I pulled it back is because I have the G3X set to alarm when I get an indicated speed of, I think it's 168, I forget what it is, but it alarmed at me. I'm like, what the hell? And I realized it was because I was going fast, and I'm pretty sure that's the fastest I've ever had this plane in straight and level flight. I'm not entirely sure if it's up to the ignition, or if it's the boat tail, or if it's probably a combination of both. But again, whatever it is, I'll take it. I do have one more aerodynamic change I want to make to this plane. This plane has no fairings on the gear legs, and that's good for a knot or two as well. So that's in the works, in the plans. I'm thinking that I was hoping I would get 1 or 2 knots total out of all this. I have a feeling I'm already seeing more like 5, which is fantastic. I'll take 5 knots extra speed any day of the week. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions about this, leave it in the comments section below. And if you like this type of video, click like, subscribe to the channel. Really helps me out when you do that. Thanks for watching.